Unveiled, the terrifying tale of the cursed boy preserved in Sinister 1887 post-mortem photo in a quaint, unsuspecting town like Maplewood, where children play freely and neighbors smile sweetly. A darkness looms, trapping innocent souls. Sarah Harper, a single mother with a tender heart, steps into her new life, unaware that her fresh start comes wrapped in chilling horrors, a cursed legacy sealed inside an old post-mortem photograph discovered amidst dusty boxes. The moment she unearths that grim image of a boy from 1887, she sets the stage for terror, releasing secrets that should have stayed buried. As Sarah and her 10-year-old son, Ben, unpack their meager belongings, a sense of unease creeps into the modest two-story home. She brushes off the shivers racing down her spine, convinced it's just the stress of her divorce. But Ben, serious and curious, stares at the photograph, his wide eyes mirroring the boy's somber gaze. There is something unsettling about it, something that makes Sarah's heart race, and she shudders. "Mom, look at him. He wants to talk," Ben exclaims, his voice a blend of excitement and terror. A cold sweat trickles down Sarah's back as she forcefully laughs it off, dismissing his eagerness as childish fantasy. But soon, as night falls, the shadows breathe life around them. Flickering lights disturb their sleep. Whispers slither through the hallways, echoing Ben's playful giggles that twist into something darker. Every creak of the house feels like a warning. Every gust of wind rattling the windows sends a jolt of fear straight to her heart. What is happening? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days grow heavier. Ben becomes obsessed with the photograph. He stares at it, whispers in a language that sends chills through Sarah. "He knows, Mom." He insists, his voice trembling. He knows what they did. Fear gnaws at Sarah, a visceral dread that grips her as defensiveness rises against the townfolk's suspicious glances and whispered judgments. Those friendly faces now morph into masks of accusation. Their eyes, cold like stone, peer through tightly drawn curtains, bearing witness to her increasing paranoia. Then, one stormy night, as thunder rumbles like an angry beast and rain slams against the windows, the old house plunges into total darkness. The flickering of lights gives way to complete silence. Heart pounding, Sarah clutches Ben close. They peer outside, and in that moment, everything shatters. A shadowy figure stands at the front porch, fingers elongated and gnarled, reaching for the window with an outstretched hand. Panic erupts within Sarah, and Ben, wide-eyed, begs, "Don't let him take me, Mom." In that primal moment, the truth reveals itself. A darkness has awakened, hell-bent on reclaiming what it lost long ago. The agonizing question claws at Sarah. Can she unearth the terrifying history of the boy in the photograph before it's too late? As night stretches on, shadows swirl, hungry for answers, demanding confrontation. Will she unlock the secrets or succumb to the malevolence lurking at their doorstep? The air, thick with dread, hung heavily in the house as the storm raged outside. Sarah's heart slammed against her ribcage, drowning out the violent wind with its frantic thudding. The shadow loomed, grotesque and unyielding, a dark silhouette against the gusts howling in the night. She could feel Ben trembling beside her, his small form pressed tightly against her side. "Mom," he whispered, voice barely rising above the storm. "What is that?" "Stay back," Sarah hissed, every instinct screaming for her to protect her child. "We need to hide." Yet she was rooted in place, paralyzed by fear and the sheer impossibility of what they faced. The figure pressed closer, shadows swirling around its outstretched hand, a hand that seemed to elongate, fingers twisting, curling like roots penetrating the soil of a grave. The air turned frigid, chilling her to the bone. Suddenly, the window shattered, showering them in a rain of glass. As Sarah shielded Ben, she felt a wave of anger piercing through her fear. No, this thing wouldn't take them. Not now, not ever. Get away from my son, she screamed, her voice raw and unyielding, her maternal instincts surging like a battle sea or wide out that moment. The figure jolted back, recoiling as though struck. A whisper, soft and menacing, slithered through the air like smoke, creeping into her ears. You have no idea what you've unleashed. It didn't just speak. It wove its words into her very mind, drumming up images of the boy in the photograph, visions of torment and despair. Sarah's spine tingled as she caught a glimpse of his pale face etched with sorrow and silent screams. No, no, she gasped, grasping Ben tighter, the damning realization crashing down like a tidal wave. This is all my fault. Ben's eyes, wide and terrified, sought hers. Mom, what is it? Who is he? Stay close, she urged, leading him backward into the darkened corners of the living room. The walls seemed to close in around them, shadows licking at their heels. Each breath felt like a betrayal, as though any sound they made would invite the creature back. But there was no hiding from what had been awakened. The wind howled ferociously, as if mocking their helplessness. The lights flickered and dimmed until they faded into darkness. Listen, Ben said suddenly, his voice shaking. I think I can hear him. Sarah shushed him, but it was too late. The boy's whispers had returned, rising above the cacophony of the storm. Help me, Ben stepped forward, drawn to the ghostly calls. Mom, he sounds sad. He needs us. No, Ben. She lunged forward, grabbing his arm, but the boy's call echoed hungrily, alluring. It was pulling at the edges of her sanity, her heart clenching with a mix of horror and sorrow. We have to find out the truth, Ben insisted, his voice faltering as fear clawed at them both. The walls quaked with silent rage, the shadows swirling closer, forming a grotesque visage that began to block their only escape. You will pay for waking me, it growled, voice echoing like thunder. Desperation ignited within Sarah. Could uncovering the past save them, or would it doom them to the same fate as the boy? As her pulse quickened, Sarah tightened her grip on Ben, determination flooding through her. We have to face it, Ben. We have to know. But before she could formulate a plan, the front door swung open with a deafening creak, revealing an unknown infant face smiling eerily in the storm's dim light. The child stood alone in the torrential rain, beckoning them forward, its voice as sweet as sugar, even as danger loomed behind them. Come, play with us. A spine-chilling realization washed over Sarah. There was more than one presence, more than the cursed boy, and they were all waiting, watching. What have I done? She whispered, dread surging anew, and it was only the beginning of their nightmare. As she fought against the shadows threatening to overtake them, a question pierced the night. Who would be saved, her or Ben? The shadows closed in tighter, and no matter how loud they screamed, the storm only grew louder. Would their fight draw blood? The frigid wind howled louder, shattering the stillness that had overtaken the room since the door swung open. Sarah stood as if frozen, horror pooling in her stomach like ice. The infant face, innocent and grotesque, smiled with an unsettling cheerfulness that twisted Sarah's insides. Ben, she hissed, pulling him closer. Heart racing, she scanned the doorway, searching for an escape from this mounting horror. The child was drenched, droplets glistening on its pale skin, eyes wide with an unnatural brightness. Come play with us, it chimed again, as though the very words were spun from silk, wrapped around her mind, whispering promises of warmth and safety. Mom, it's just a kid, Ben pleaded, innocent trust flashing through his eyes. No, Sarah snapped, shaking her head violently. It's not just a kid, Ben. The shadows in the room thickened, seeming to stretch and shimmy closer in response to her outburst. The infant giggled, a sound that echoed, chilling her to the bone. We've been waiting forever. The shadows behind the child writhed, merging like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. Help me, the voice morphed again, hitching in a whisper that bore a familiar tone, the same pleading cadence from before. He asked, telling the truth. Ben insisted, his small face taut with determination. He took a hesitant step forward, breath hitching in his throat. Please, Mom. We can help him. No, don't you dare move. Panic surged through Sarah, and with a swift motion, she pulled him into her chest, pinning him against her trembling body. Each thud of her heart screamed protectiveness, sharp as the shards of glass littering the floor. The infant's expression shifted, a frown creeping slowly into place. You're not going to help, it said, voice dripping with disappointment. You'll be sorry, as if delivering a command. The shadows recoiled and surged at once, closing in like a spider's web, tightening around them, wrapping them in layers of dread. The storm outside morphed into an angry beast, crashes of thunder mingling with the whispers from the ethereal child. Mom, Ben cried with fear, tugging at her sleeve. Listen, Sarah ordered, gritting her teeth to steady her voice. The boy's words had shifted again, becoming clearer and sharper, pulling her deeper into the chaos of her mounting dread. What if he's not just trapped? What if no? Sarah interjected, cutting him off. Listen to me, Ben. We need to get out now. But the doorway was blocked, shadows writhing like serpents, hissing and crawled toward her, hungry whispers flooding her ears. Will you save us? The infant grinned, its smile widening grotesquely. No, Sarah whispered, dread washing over her. I want tea. Then, as if in response to her words, the shadows curled in retaliation, swirling around Ben, dragging him toward the entrance. His feet stumbled on the glass, and Sarah's heart stopped. Ben, no. She lunged forward, gripping his wrist tight, pulling with all her might. The child's giggle morphed into an eerie chorus, laughter echoing from the depths of the void behind it, slicing through her resolve with wicked intrigue. You'll play, or else. Before she could comprehend what happened next, Sarah felt a surge of heat, a flash of vision burning behind her eyes. Distant memories of the photograph slipped into focus like a slow-motion horror film, blurring her thoughts. She realized the cursed boy hadn't been waiting for help alone. He beckoned others, too. Ben, look away, she said, yanking him back deeper into the house, away from the growing shadows. But even she could feel the pull, the longing to discover their truths. Just as she thought they may break free, a ripple of darkness surged forward, swirling around her feet, binding her in place. The fear she had locked away, long forgotten, whispered taunts that clawed at her sanity, demanding she acknowledge their existence. With urgency, Sarah scanned the dim room for anything anyway to fight back. On the mantel, a glimmering object met her gaze. A small candle, the only remnant of light in the growing abyss. She had to reach it, but the walls were echoing with threats, each more sinister than the last. Mom? Ben's voice trembled, drowning in shadows. Hold on, she shouted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The smooth flick of a match was all that stood between them and despair. Could it hold the night away long enough to save them? As the flames flickered to life, illuminating the darkness, she felt a sudden drop in temperature, the whispers morphing into shouts, mingling with the storm. But amidst it all, a new voice rose, a voice of the boy, filled with rage and vengeance. You woke me, now you will join us. Sarah's breath caught as she realized their lives hung precariously on the flickering light. Would that spark be enough? And who else lurked within the shadows, waiting for their turn? Every heartbeat felt like the final countdown. Would they survive the impending storm, or was this only the beginning of their descent into hell? The flame danced defiantly against the encroaching darkness, casting erratic shadows that flickered across the walls like restless spirits. Sarah held the candle aloft, her heart pounding her chest as she fought to anchor herself against the tide of terror that threatened to sweep them away. Mom, please. Ben's voice wavered, a thin thread of desperation that struck her hard. She twisted her body, positioning Ben behind her as she stood her ground against the mass of shadow. Stay close, she commanded, her teeth clenched to muffle the rising panic. It felt like a dream, or perhaps a nightmare spun from her worst fears, as the infant's laughter twisted through the air, taunting and shrill. "We can help," the child sang, as if rehearsing a sickening melody. The shadows surged again, lunging forward as if drawn by the light. Sarah's grip tightened around the candle. "Get back," she yelled, as if sheer volume could push the darkness away. Yet, it only filled the air with more dissonant laughter, mocking her resolve. The weight of shadows pressed in on all sides, a suffocating dread draping over them. Sarah stumbled backward, clutching the candle like a lifeline. "What do you want?" she shouted. "Join us," the infant's voice echoed, now rich with malice. "We're not alone in here." Her mind raced, dragging her deeper into memories that twisted like nightmares. She thought of the photograph, of what it revealed. It wasn't just their haunted past pulling at her. It was voices she had buried, lost ones that had been plunged into the shadows long ago. "Why?" Ben whimpered, pulling at the hem of her shirt. The innocence in his face shone through, a stark contrast to the filth they were wading through. "Because you're a part of us, dear Ben." A chorus of childlike voices harmonized, resonating from the depths of the space around them. Shadows morphed and contorted, human forms appearing then vanishing as if swirling in a nightmarish dance. "No!" Sarah screamed, shoving Ben back further toward the hall. There had to be a way out, she thought wildly. The candle flickered dangerously, and her mind whirled. The memories were coming back, clarifying like sharp glass slicing through cotton. "You've all suffered." "Yes. Share our pain." The shadows clamored, voices blending into a cacophony of distant cries. "Help us." "It's only fair." The candle sputtered and dimmed. Panic gripped her. "Not like this." She gasped. Her eyes darted toward the windows, covered with the dark, roiling mist. They felt like prison bars, and the storm outside raged, an echo of the turmoil inside. "Mom, please?" Ben's tiny voice cut through the chaos, his trusting eyes shining in the candlelight. For an agonizing second, she was frozen. Should she trust him? Could they do more than escape? In that heartbeat, darkness surged again, tendrils snaking around her ankles and then up her legs, trapping her. The flicker of light stuttered and nearly snuffed out. "Help us or be consumed," the infant warned, twisting its expression into an unsettling semblance of sorrow. "Your fear feeds us." "Ben, run." With one desperate yank, she broke free from the shadows binding her, her mind racing to the memory of the photograph. What had it concealed about the curse that shaped this haunted corridor? The air crackled. She felt the floor shake beneath her bare feet. "Mom!" The shriek echoed in the dark. Ben was trembling, wide-eyed. The last flicker from the candle illuminated a figure lurking in the shadows, a face she recognized, twisted with maleficence. It whispered her name, curling around her thoughts, dragging them into a vortex of dread. "Sarah, join us." The very walls seemed to cry, wanting to consume her. "No!" she cried, shielding Ben, heart hammering against the drum of inevitability. The door behind them was still closed, but a far-off sound grew, a creaking yaw, like hope trying to find its footing amidst despair. A choice loomed ahead, knotting her insides. Could light pierce deeper darkness? "Ben, we have to go." But as she turned, shadows leaped, clawing, pulling, demanding. Would they escape? Or was the dark claiming them for good, ushering them into a living nightmare they could never leave? The candle's flame trembled, and Sarah prayed for its strength. Would it hold long enough to reveal the path? The battle wasn't just for survival anymore. It was a fight for the very ground beneath them, for sanity, or something even darker. As the walls whispered, whatever was lurking beyond their edges waited with bated breath. Would their stories intertwine, or would they fall silent before dawn? The shadows lunged again, racing toward her like restless wraiths. Sarah felt the oppressive weight wrap around her, a tightening noose that threatened to squeeze the breath from her lungs. In that dreadful moment, the flickering candle became her sole ally against the greed of the darkness. "Mom, do something." Ben's voice cracked, a melody of fear that shattered her resolve. as she clutched the candle tighter. Its trembling light seemed to pulse like a heartbeat quickening, weary, fighting against the abyss. "Stay right by me, Ben." Her words felt heavy, as though the shadows themselves were straining to consume them both. Just then, amidst the chaos, her heart dropped at a glimmer from the other side of the room. Was it her mind playing tricks? Or was that a door? Dark and warped, it stood nearly obscured by shadow, but it looked relatively untouched. The distorted whispers of the trapped voices felt distant now, drowned out by her racing thoughts. "Hold on tight," she said, determination flooding her veins. With a swift motion, she propelled Ben forward and dashed toward the door. The shadows clawed at her heels, their grasp desperate. She could feel the chill of their breaths, a dampness that draped over her skin and sent icy fingers down her spine. She risked a glance back. The faces were closer now, deformed visages of sorrow, twisted with longing. Each child bore an expression that echoed violation, loss. It struck her heart like a dagger, a profound realization stirring from the edges of her memory. The photograph, she muttered, almost pleading with the specters. "You're all trapped. Join us, and we'll show you the way out," they chorused, their voices weaving together in a chilling harmony. "Just move," she screamed, her voice strained from exertion and fear. Ben tugged at her arm. "The candle, Mom. It's dimming." Panic clawed at her throat as she felt the soft glow flicker dangerously low. With a burst of adrenaline, she wrestled towards the door, pushing against the encroaching shadows like swimming against a riptide. "Please," Sarah begged as they neared the door, her own voice breaking. What more would they demand? What more could they take? Suddenly, the shadows lunged once more, swarming around her feet, pulling her down. But she would not let them win. With a primal scream, she ripped free of their desperate grasp and leaped for the handle, plunging it open. The door creaked, unleashing a wave of misty air that caught her and Ben off guard. It felt alive, cold, and biting, yet oddly inviting. Heart racing, she peered into what seemed like a vast chasm of thick fog. "Mom," Ben whispered, his gaze flitting between her and the swirling gloom. Fear hung in the air heavier than stone. "Ben, we have to trust it." But uncertainty gnawed at her resolve. Yet the shadows shrieked behind them, releasing currents of cold dread. Stepping across the threshold, they were enveloped by darkness almost instantly. The sensation of the outside world slipped from their fingers like sand. "Mom," Ben wailed as the door slammed shut behind them, sealing them away from the wretched corridor. They stood in silence, surrounded by a blanket of darkness. And then, faintly a sound began to emerge from within the fog. "Help us," the voices, more profound, more desperate than before. They echoed with a weight that made Sarah's skin tighten. "The darkness wants you, too." A voice slithered from the shadows, curling around her heart like a serpent. "You cannot escape." Sarah clutched Ben close, adrenaline pounding in her ears. The grave realization struck her like a wave. The shadows weren't just memories. They were alive, hungry, and relentless. "What do you want from us?" she shouted, her voice slicing through the thick haze. "We've been waiting for you." The mist swirled, and cold tendrils snaked around her ankles. The darkness shimmered slightly, revealing phantom reflections, terrified children staring back with eyes filled with torment. "Mom, I'm scared," Ben cried, trembling violently against her. But then, in that moment, Sarah felt it. A flicker of warmth her. Candle, ignited by the flicker of hope that still grasped at the edges of her mind. "Stay close to me," she urged, lifting the candle high. It illuminated a path where none existed, but as the shadows recoiled from its light, something deeper in the fog flickered ominously. "Do you see?" A voice taunted, resonating through the fog. "You can't hide from the truth." Sarah, as she stepped forward, finding the strength to face the unseen, words echoed in her mind. Would they unveil the truth behind the curse entwined with the photograph, or would they lose themselves to the darkness? A chilling laugh rolled through the air, wrapping around her like ice. Every choice has its price, and then the shadows surged back, even more violent and demanding. Choose wisely. Sarah, could they outsmart the hunger that threatened to swallow them whole? A decision loomed, dense with terror, as uncertainty congealed in the air around them. Time was running out. The darkness awaited its next victim, and they were on the precipice. As Sarah steadied herself, something deep within the murk began to writhe, pulsing as if it were alive. What secrets lay waiting in the dark? The mist thickened, wrapping around them like a living entity. Sarah's heart pounded in her ears, drowning out the whispers that promised salvation, yet oozed with malice. Ben shivered, his small hand trembling in her grip. "Mom, let us go back," he whimpered, lifting his innocent eyes toward hers, filled with fear. "No," she exclaimed, determination seeping through her panic. "We can't go back. There's nothing for us there." The shadows writhed angrily, hissing whispers bathing her in dread. They threatened to swallow them whole, each cold gust brushing against her skin, urging her to turn back, to give in. "Your candle won't hold much longer," one voice warned. Barely a breath, yet it felt like an omen. Desperation drove her forward into the fog that loomed like a predator. "We need to keep moving," she reassured Ben, raising the candle higher, its flickering flame casting erratic shadows around them, morphing the world into a grotesque nightmare. Suddenly, the floor gave way beneath her, and she stumbled into a cavernous room filled with grotesque sculptures. Dull, lifeless eyes seemed to bore into them, watching every move with malicious anticipation. Charcoal walls radiated a foreboding aura, as if they harbored unseen secrets. "I don't like this place," Ben murmured, squeezing Sarah's hand. "It feels wrong. Don't let go, okay?" She replied. That warmth from the candle burned brighter, fighting back cruel memories trying to claw their way into the forefront of her mind. It was wrong, so wrong, just as Ben said. But they had no choice. The shadows were hungry. Relentless, the figure emerged from the fog. Inches away, cloaked in gray, the face hidden beneath a frayed hood. A wave of dread washed over Sarah as that figure raised a hand long, bony fingers extended toward the candle. "You seek a truth, but do you accept the cost?" It rasped, voice trembling like leaves in a storm. "Who are you?" Sarah demanded, the candle wavering with uncertainty as anger pulsed through her veins. "The keeper of stories," the figure replied, each word spilling like stale air from cracked lips. "I reveal what the light cannot, fates entwined, lives broken." "Enough," she shouted, taking a step back. "We want out. We want to leave." The figure's laugh echoed through the chamber, chilling. "And what do you think you are owed?" Shadows erupted from the walls, swirling and thickening until it felt like drowning in darkness. "Wisdom? Power? Understanding? Every truth comes with sacrifice." A gruesome vision flooded Sarah's mind, images of children, desperate and pale, faces she recognized from distant memories. Their twisted forms bore tales of betrayal and scorn. The photograph, framed in whispers of the past, held these portraits of lost innocence. "Mom," Ben cried, pulling at her arm as a tormented child reached for him through the endless dark. "No, stay back," Sarah yelled, instinct gripping her. The truth was terrifying, but the pulses of hope from the candle urged her onward. She would not let Ben become one of them. The fog twisted, and the shadows howled, clawing at her resolve. "You'll pay our price, one way or another." The cloaked figure snarled, its visage shifting, revealing a mouth full of rotting teeth. "That's not going to happen," she shouted defiantly. But her confidence faltered as the walls twisted and bent, shapes warping and forming hands that reached out, grasping for Ben, for her. Every instinct screamed at her to run as she strained against the grasp, the darkness demanding her surrender. "We'll take you both," the shadows hissed, slithering up her legs, pinning her in place. With a final surge of adrenaline, she snatched Ben close and brandished the candle like a sword, thrusting it forward. "Get back!" she screamed as the flame flickered madly, splitting the shadows, revealing a passage behind them, a way out. The dark screams intensified as the light pushed against the fog, creating a pocket of clarity amidst the chaos. "Run," she commanded, dragging Ben through the thrumming veil toward the dim outline of hope of brighter space beyond the night. What hid at the edge of this mysterious light? Would they truly escape, or would the darkness consume them whole? The candle flickered ominously, just as they neared the unknown. The edges of the fog parted as Sarah and Ben plunged into the narrow corridor revealed by the candle's flickering light. Heart pounding, Sarah pulled Ben tightly against her side, their breaths heavy with fear and desperation. The walls closed in around them, slick with moisture and the weight of 1,000 horrors. "Mom, I want to go home," Ben whimpered, tears welling in his eyes. The raw fear in his voice cut through Sarah like glass. The corridor twisted at odd angles, leading them deeper into the hollow belly of the dark. Shadows danced along the damp stone walls, flickering and contorting into ghastly shapes. Faces emerged, momentarily distorted screams and frozen cries then melted back into the darkness, leaving an echo that chilled her soul. "Keep moving. We can't stop," Sarah urged, pushing herself forward even as her instincts told her to freeze. They were not alone. The darkness was alive, bubbling with malevolent whispers that crawled up her spine. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated through the corridor. Sarah whipped around, clutching the candle as it flickered dangerously low. A shadow darted behind a cracked stone column, disappearing into the gloom. Seconds stretched into an eternity, each heartbeat amplifying the silence. What was lurking just beyond their view? "Did you see that?" Ben gasped, tightening his grip on her hand. "Yes." "Stay close," Sarah whispered, holding her breath. This was not just a passageway. It was a trap, each step pulling them deeper into the maw of despair. With uncertainty coursing through her veins, she led them further until they burst into a wide chamber, lit by an unnatural glow. Candles lined the walls, but their flames danced in strange formations, dancing like twisted figures whispering forbidden secrets. In the center stood a tall, ornate mirror, covered in a layer of dust and age. "What is that?" Ben asked, pulling back reflexively. "It's not just a mirror," she muttered, stepping closer, compelled by some unseen force. As Sarah peered into its depth, the image slowly emerged, a reflection not of herself, but of the cloaked figure, its face now clearly visible, stitched into a grim visage of agony. Its empty eyes locked onto hers, and a faint, mocking grin appeared where its mouth should have been. "You've come seeking answers, but you will only find despair," the figure echoed from the mirror, its voice like shards of glass scraping against metal. "Get away from there, Mom," Ben screamed, tugging desperately at her arm. His voice snapped Sarah back to reality, fueling her urgency. "Ben, we have to," but before she could finish her thought, the mirror shimmered, and screams echoed back from its depths, not theirs, not yet. It was a cacophony, voices of the lost, echoes of all those who had looked into this cursed glass. She felt the floor tremble beneath her, as if the very foundation resented their presence. "Run," she yelled suddenly, pulling Ben away from the mirror just as tendrils of darkness shot out, brushing against her skin, their icy grip almost grounding her. They sprinted through the dimly lit space, the walls closing in as the roar of wind and wails followed. The shadows were relentless. They could feel the weight of past souls lurking behind them, hungry for more. In the distance, images of children played through her mind again, the twisted expressions of innocence lost. "Mom, what is happening?" Ben cried, panic raising his pitch. "I don't know, but we have to keep running." Sarah gritted her teeth, glancing back at the mirror, the cloaked figure now a void within the glass, a gaping maw waiting to swallow them whole. They reached a second passage, illuminated just up ahead. Hope surged through her. There, that must be the way out. But as they raced toward it, the shadows seemed to slow them, coiling around her legs like chains, pulling them back. "You can't escape," the whispers taunted. "You belong to us." "Ben, keep running." she shouted, fierce determination igniting her. She used all her strength to push through the grasping darkness, dragging her son alongside her. The narrow passage emerged into blinding light as they stumbled forward, but the shadows were still clawing at their heels. As Sarah reached the threshold, a hand shot out from the darkness, snagging the back of her shirt. She felt the cold grip tighten just as she crossed the boundary into the light, yanking her back towards the void. With a scream, she clung to Ben, feeling the fabric tear as she was pulled between worlds. The last thing she saw was the figure in the mirror, its grin widening in triumph. Then the candles extinguished, plunging everything into silence. Would they finally find freedom beyond the light, or was the darkness still waiting to drag them back into its depths? Light enveloped them, warm and blinding, yet it flickered at the edges like a dying star. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, feeling Ben's small body pressed against hers. The rush of a wind she couldn't see urged them forward. Once, she thought they had escaped, but the cold lingered at her back like a looming predator. "Mom?" Ben's voice quivered, just above a whisper. "Are we safe?" She hesitated. I don't know." Even as the words left her lips, a tremor ran through the ground beneath them, awakening a sense of dread that gnawed at her gut. Slowly, she opened her eyes. The light dimmed as her vision adjusted, revealing what looked like a vast, abandoned room, a forgotten relic swallowed by time. Dust motes danced in the air, swirling around shattered furniture glazed with age. "Where are we?" Ben asked, his voice now edged with fear. "I'm not sure, but we need to stay alert." She could feel the shadows creeping in, curling around their feet, whispering sweet lies of safety. It felt wrong, too quiet. Nothing was ever really safe in this place. They stumbled forward, light gradually fading, the oppressive silence weighing on their chests. The walls of the room were lined with tall shelves, filled to the brim with curious objects, old dolls with cracked porcelain skin, tattered books holding secrets long forgotten, and glass jars containing what looked like murky liquids, floating remnants of lives once lived. I could see the far end of the room. Something shifted. Sarah froze, her heart hammering. A heavy wooden door stood slightly ajar, creaking in a non-existent wind. She exchanged a glance with Ben, who was now trembling, clutching her hand as though it were a lifeline. "Mom, I don't like this," he whispered, eyes wide. "Neither do I, Ben. But we have to find a way out." She took a step, drawn toward the door by the shadows that slithered at her feet. It beckoned to her, a siren-esque call. With each step, the temperature dropped, and she shivered, her breath fogging in the air. The silence was deafening, the watchful gaze of forgotten spirits pressing in. It felt as if the walls were closing in, a tightening grip that made it hard to breathe. Louder now, the whispers began again, taunting her. "You will never escape. You belong to us. Forever. Just ignore it, Ben," she urged, feeling the weight of despair, trying to pull her down as they neared the door. A grotesque sound broke the hush, a harsh, guttural rasp that sent a jolt of terror through her spine. Sarah's heart raced as she glanced back, half expecting the cloaked figure to emerge from the shadows. But nothing appeared. Still, the sense of being observed prickled her skin. She pushed the creaking door wider, a mix of resolve and dread flooding through her. Beyond lay a staircase, descending into blackness, the air thick with foreboding. Its twisted, crumbling steps descended into nothingness, darkness glimmering with faint whispers of what could be. Should they go down? Should they stop? She felt sick with uncertainty. "Mom, it's too dark." Ben's voice heightened, pulling her from the brink of indecision. "Okay, we can't stay here. We have to know what's down there." But as she moved a step forward, the door slammed shut behind them, an echoing boom that rattled the shelves. "Mom!" Ben screamed, eyes wide, panic erupting within him. "Ben, stay close." She could feel the shadows creeping in again, their forms twisting and stretching, threatening to wrap around them. The darkness ahead called to her, heavier now, with a promise of secrets that could not be ignored. She took a deep breath, summoned her courage, and turned to Ben. Ready? Not really, he muttered, teeth clenched, but he nodded resolutely. One foot after the other, they began to descend. Each step down resonated with a pulse, the heartbeat of an unseen creature. As they entered the dark, the whispers grew, swirling around them menacing, inviting, inevitable. Fear turned tight in her throat. Then, a soft glow flickered in the distance, illuminating the outline of a figure at the bottom of the stairs. The fine hairs on her neck stood on end as she recognized that twisted grin. We're not free, yet it echoed, voice dripping with malice. Her heart raced as she tightened her hold on Ben's hand. They had to face what awaited them. They had to know. With resolve, she pulled Ben further into the dark, the figure waiting like a shadow in a nightmare. What awaited them below? Would they find freedom or merely serve their final penance? The cold darkness wrapped around them like a heavy cloak, stifling any hope of escape. Each step they took down the dilapidated staircase seemed to echo, reverberating off the damp walls drenched in silence. Sarah's heart raced, thumping at a frantic pace, every instinct screaming for her to turn back. "Mom, I don't want to go any further," Ben whispered, his voice barely a tremor in the air. She looked down at him, his small frame shivering against the chill. "We have to, Ben. We can't go back, and staying here it feels wrong." She forced her voice to remain steady, but a knot of fear twisted tighter in her stomach. The glow at the bottom shimmered ominously, lighting the way, yet casting longer shadows. As they neared, details began revealing themselves. The figure illuminated by the light appeared distorted, a haunting visage contorted into an almost playful smirk. It hovered just at the edge of the glow, waiting. "Who are you?" Sarah's voice broke the stillness, strong yet laced with uncertainty that she couldn't disguise. "I am your guide," it hissed, drawing closer. The voice slithered through the air, sweetened with malice. "All those who pass through the door find me terrified." Sarah grabbed Ben tightly, feeling the little boy's grip on her hand tightening in response. "What do you want from us?" she demanded, her eyes darting from one corner of the darkness to another. "Want?" The figure laughed lightly, a sound like glass shattering. "I offer what was lost a chance to reclaim what is rightfully yours." But it leaned closer, the glow outlining the features of its face, a horrific blend of grinning bone and sunken flesh. "You must choose carefully. Choices made here echo forever." The whispers returned, layered and frantic, each syllable merging into cries of despair that filled the air. "Don't listen to it, Sarah." It was like the world had a heartbeat, thumping mechanically in the depths of the shadows, pressing against her. Ben's breathing grew shallow, panic flashing in his eyes. The urgency of the situation seeped into Sarah's bones. "What do you mean by choices?" she asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. "The choice of what to leave behind, or who," the figure taunted, grinning wider. Its eyes glinted like shards of ice. "Will you save your boy, or shall this place claim him as it has claimed so many before?" "No," Ben whimpered, inching back. The shadows curled about him, their icy fingers reaching, beckoning him as if the darkness could swallow him whole. "Mom," he cried, his voice rising. "Sure." "Ben, trust me," she pleaded, stepping protective in front, her heart racing. A surge of anger surged within her at the twisted being's words. "I want to let you take him. I'll fight you." The figure chuckled, the sound slithering over her skin like damp silk. "You misunderstand, dear Sarah. It isn't I who wishes to take him. It is the darkness. And I can help you, or you can begin your descent into despair for eternity." Sarah felt the ground quaking beneath her. The walls groaned, and the light flickered ominously. Instinctively, she began to back away, leading Ben, framing their escape in her mind. But as she turned her back on the figure, she heard it call, voice a caress of fire. "You'll find what you seek, but only further down." And then the glow dimmed, a swirling void swallowing the semblance of hope Sarah had nurtured. Something inside, deep and primal, understood that this darkness was not a mere passage, but a truth waiting for them. Ma, I want to go back. Ben cried out, now panicking. No, we can't, she shouted. We have to keep moving. The door might shut behind us forever. Beneath their feet, the steps creaked ominously as if they too wished to drop them into the void. What lies below? She wondered aloud, even as dread thickened in her throat. Then, a shivering scream wrenched free from the shadows, a sound reminiscent of anguish that echoed all around them. Then nothing but silence, heavy and oppressive. But deep down within the darkness, she thought she heard a response, a soft whisper, chilling against her skin. If you value your life, come. Deeper, they were caught in a game they didn't understand. And with every pulse of fear, every moment clinging to hope, the stakes became higher. No way to turn back. Now, they had to find out what lay on the other side of the darkness. Would it be salvation or doom waiting for them at the end of their spiral descent? The darkness enveloped Sarah and Ben, thick and suffocating, each step drawing them deeper into its claustrophobic embrace. Her heart raced, each pulse matching the tremors beneath their feet. Stay close, Ben, she whispered, squeezing his hand tightly. She could feel his small fingers trembling, a reflection of her own rise in panic. The whispers merged into a relentless chorus, taunting and demanding, spiraling around them in a disjointed symphony of despair. Give yourself up, it's not too late. The more they descended, the more her resolve wavered. Suddenly, the corridor widened, and a vast underground chamber loomed ahead, lit by glowing remnants of shadows intertwining in a grotesque dance. The air grew icy, numbing her skin. Overhead, twisted shapes writhed like tortured souls. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back. Mom, I don't like this, Ben said, his voice trembling, filled with dread. It's okay, honey. We're almost there. Yet even as she reassured him, dread pooled in her stomach. There was a price that had to be paid, something waiting to be revealed in the depths of this cursed place. And then, abruptly, the shadows stilled, hanging heavy in the air. A figure materialized from the gloom, a disfigured silhouette draped in darkness, with hollow eyes glinting like stones. Welcome back, it hissed, voice a chilling echo of familiarity mixed with despair. Who are you? Sarah demanded, her voice rising, masking the tremor she couldn't contain. I am the one you awakened, it hissed back, its mouth stretching into a grin devoid of warmth. I'm every child trapped in this place. I am the boy from the photograph. No, Ben shouted, retreating behind Sarah, fear etched across his small face. You're lying. The truth must be faced, the figure replied coolly, a cruel smile spreading across its features. You've come seeking answers, but you must decide who you are willing to lose to leave. A pulse of panic coursed through Sarah. What had she done? What curse had she unleashed? I will not lose my son, she shouted, feeling the fire ignite within her again. Then accept your fate, it spat, shadows swirling as tension clawed at the edges of their shared reality. Ben's grip on her tightened as fear flickered in his big eyes. Come join us. Voices begged softly from the depths, echoes of lost children seeking companionship in their eternal darkness. You belong with us, stop it, she shouted, pushing against the unseen weight pressing in on them. We will not share your sorrow. But the chamber seemed to pulse with energy, shadows elongating, drawn to her resolve. There is power in letting go, the figure taunted, mocking her at every turn. Instinctively, Sarah grasped the candle she had carried, its light waning but still refusing to be extinguished. No, I will protect my son, she shouted defiantly, the flickering flame illuminating the tortured faces of lost children swirling in sanctified torment. A sudden scream sliced through the chamber, not from Ben, but from the figure before them. It recoiled as light chased the shadows, revealing its true form for that brief instant, once an innocent boy, cast now in tragedy and loss. Mom, Ben whispered, his small voice brimming with disbelief and terror. Stay close. We can do this. The flame flickered in response to their terror. We will face our past, as the shadows groaned, lurching forward, Sarah stepped towards the boy, a demand rooted in maternal instinct. Show us. Show us how to break this curse. The shadows swirled, hesitating for the first time as if considering her request. With that, the energy in the room shifted. Shadows began to retreat, whispering jumbled words of defiance. You can't change what has been done, maybe not. Sarah's voice rang with newfound resolve. But I will not lose my son to your pain. We will find a way to heal. Ben trembled beside her. What do we do? Believe in the light, Ben. She raised the candle high, illuminating the chamber, shadows shrinking away from its flame. We have to let them go. The candle flickered erratically, as if on the verge of dying. The figure shrieked. Its form wavered as the light's hold pushed against its malevolent presence. You think you can escape? It screeched. No, we are not bound by your darkness. Sarah's voice was fierce now, filled with newfound strength. We declare our freedom. We will not be afraid. Ben stepped forward, inspired by his mother's courage. We won't let fear win. He shouted, his small voice echoing strong amidst the despair. Stay away from us. In that moment, the candle blazed with light, illuminating the chamber even brighter, cutting through the suffocating darkness. The shadows howled, twisting violently as if the very foundation beneath them was beginning to crack under the incandescent warmth of hope. The boy's laughter twisted into a scream, a wailing cry filled with rage and sorrow. But as it rose, Sarah felt the shackles of despair start to loosen. Together we heal, she proclaimed. Light erupted around them, breaking through the remnants of their haunted past. A warmth seemed to encircle them, wrapping them in a cocoon of safety as the shadows fled, drawn back into the void. And then silence. The vast underground chamber stood empty, the candle's light steady and bright. Sarah's heart soared, but she felt a deep heaviness within, an ache for the lost souls who lingered. Are we free? Ben asked, glancing up wide-eyed. I think so, she breathed, her heart racing with a rush of emotions. Tears filled her eyes at the thought of their ordeal. As they stepped forward, she felt something shift in the air, a whisper of sorrow wrapped in a lingering warmth. Thank you, it echoed softly, reverberating through the heaviness of their past. Together, they turned toward the way back, open and clear, as if beckoning them home. She linked arms with Ben, holding him close. We did it, Mom, he smiled, relief washing over them both. But she also felt the weight of their journey crystallizing in her heart. Now we live, she whispered, stepping back into the light, leaving the shadows behind. As they emerged from the darkness, the radiant dawn broke through, surrounding them with warmth. They stood upon the familiar ground of Maplewood, home that IT had been haunting, terrifying, a soul-shattering experience that could consume their lives. But now, holding her son close, they looked at the photograph resting on the old dusty shelf of their new home, a testament of what they faced. But it would never imprison them again. As they walked forward, knowing the shadows would always linger, they took a deep breath, fueled by light and love, ready to embrace whatever came next. Now, take a moment to act. If you love this story, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now. Help the algorithm work its magic. Flood the comment section with your reactions and thoughts about this intense conclusion. And finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. This is the moment to show your support and be part of our growing community. Don't wait even one more second. Make your voice heard.